Welcome to my channel. Welcome to a new video. It is titled A Priori Knowledge, knowledge that is independent of experience and which investors should embrace. Before we begin, a quick note. If you are interested in this topic, you should read Dr. Polite's Boom and Bust report. All information is available at www.boombustreport.com. In the latest issue from May the 1st, 2025, you will find key topics such as Trapped in the Central Bank Matrix, Insights into a Simulated World, a red pill every investor should take, or the rise in the price of gold is raising concerns about overvaluation, an important recommendation for precious metals investors. Plus, we recommend a new inflation-resistant stock for your long-term portfolio. All this and more in Dr. Polite's Boom and Bust report, published every 14 days. Don't miss out. Get your subscription now. And now let us start with a priori knowledge, knowledge that is independent of experience and which investors should embrace. Where does our knowledge come from? How do we know anything about the world around us? How are we able to say, this is a table, this is a car, this is the interest rate, and this is the return on equity? Philosophers have long been concerned with such questions. There are two fundamental schools of thought. One position holds that our knowledge comes from experience. This is known as empiricism. According to this view, we observe the world, touch, measure, and weigh the objects we are interested in, and thereby gain knowledge of them. The objects of our perception, in a sense, imprint knowledge upon us like a wax tablet. The opposing position asserts that we gain knowledge through reason and our innate ideas, independent of sensory experience. This is pure rationalism. Philosophers like René Descartes and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz argue that certain truths, that is, mathematical or logical principles, can be grasped through thinking alone. Take, for example, Descartes' famous proposition, I think, therefore I am. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant from Königsberg in East Prussia proposed an epistemology that touches on both empiricism and rationalism, but goes far beyond them. Kant's theory of knowledge is a central contribution in his book Critique of Pure Reason, first published in 1781. Kant also acknowledges that there is knowledge dependent on experience, which he calls a posteriori knowledge. For example, when I touch a hot stove and thereby realize, after touching it, that it is hot. However, Kant claims that while knowledge may arise from experience, it does not necessarily originate in experience. In his words, although all our knowledge begins with experience, it does not follow that it all arises from experience. Kant says, and here is the striking part, that there also exists knowledge independent of experience, which he refers to as a priori knowledge. What exactly is meant by a priori? A priori literally means in advance. In this sense, a priori knowledge means true knowledge that is independent of experience. To be more precise, a priori knowledge is irrefutably true knowledge. Its truth value is self-evident. It cannot be determined as true or false through experience. In other words, a priori knowledge is true knowledge, and denying its truth value would presuppose its validity, that is, resulting into a logical contradiction, and thus saying something false. Let's begin with a simple example of an a priori statement, a statement that is self-evidently true. Bachelors are unmarried. The adjective unmarried is already implied in the subject bachelor. You do not need to meet a bachelor to recognize the truth of the statement. This is what Kant calls an analytic a priori. Analytic for Kant means unpacking. The predicate, unmarried, is already contained in the concept of bachelor. It is true by definition and can be logically deduced. However, the phrase prior to all experience can be interpreted in two ways. First, a statement can be recognized as true or false without relying on our senses, that is, seeing, hearing, touching, that is, without empirical experience. Or, second, all parts of the a priori statement, including the terms it uses, stem not from experience, but from our cognitive faculties, the innate capacities of the human mind. Let's clarify this further. The statement, bachelors are unmarried, is undeniably true as an analytic a priori. But one could argue, the very concept of bachelor comes from experience. Our knowledge of what a bachelor is not innate but experiential. This is certainly valid, but Kant is actually not interested in all types of a priori statements. Rather, he focuses on pure a priori knowledge. The term pure in the title Critique of Pure Reason refers to this very distinction. By pure, Kant means statements involving concepts and representations that are completely independent of experience, untainted by any sensory input. An example of such a pure a priori statement is, all points on the circumference of a circle are equidistant from its center. This is true independently of experience. We cannot verify this experience because we cannot examine every conceivable circle, and any physical representation of a circle is always imprecise. Therefore, Kant considers this a pure a priori statement, validated not by empirical evidence but through concepts derived purely from reason. Kant refers to these experience-independent concepts as pure concepts of understanding, special a priori concepts that are not influenced by experience and which originate entirely from the intellect. And now comes the crucial point. Without these pure a priori concepts, Kant argues, we could not attain objective knowledge of the world. Put differently, we only know things as we are capable of knowing them. In Kant's view, there are necessary preconditions for experience, and all objects of our experience must conform to these a priori conditions, these pure concepts of understanding. In his book, Kant even provides a table of these concepts, which he calls categories or the basic concepts of thinking. Among them are causality, that is cause and effect, existence, non-existence, necessity, contingency, etc. But let's now shift focus and ask, is this important for investors? The answer is, it is extremely important. A priori knowledge enables investors to distinguish reliable truth from unreliable ones, and truth from falsehood, all without needing to perform experiments, tests, or observations. Consider the following examples, each of which makes a claim of a priori validity. Expanding the money supply reduces the purchasing power of the monetary unit, compared to a situation where the money supply remains unchanged. An increase in the money supply inevitably leads to a redistribution of income and wealth, affecting market participants differently. Some gain, others lose. Or, the issuance of fiat money via bank credit creates an artificial boom, which must ultimately end in a bust. Or, in a fiat money system, there is chronic interest rate distortion. The market interest rate is driven below the true market clearing rate, leading to capital misallocation and inevitable correction crises. Or, from the present, one cannot predict with scientific precision how and when people will act in the future. Many more such examples could be cited. However, 3 key takeaways are essential here. Number 1. In economics, some things can be known with absolute certainty. They hold a priori. These truths can be understood through pure reasoning alone, without experiments or empirical investigation. Admittedly, these insights are limited and not as wide-ranging as investors might wish. But knowing what we can know with certainty and what we cannot is a major epistemic gain. It allows one to navigate a world where many mistakenly assume that experience alone is the only foundation of knowledge. Number 2. Experience is by no means useless. On the contrary, the investor is well advised to gain experience and consider it in decision-making, especially when it comes to evaluating human behavior, how people respond to incentives or act under specific conditions. Empirical knowledge is essential. However, and this must be emphasized, empirical knowledge is not always reliable. What held true yesterday may not necessarily hold true tomorrow. And number 3, investors must never make the mistake of placing empirical knowledge above a priori knowledge. For instance, believing that fiat money can replace commodity or gold money without causing economic harm, as people often suggest, is to misjudge monetary theory. It is incompatible with a priori knowledge. In fact, a priori truths supersede empirical observations, not the other way around. After all, experience itself is interpreted through the lens of a priori understanding. To put it simply, a priori knowledge trumps empirical knowledge. And now let me say thank you very much for listening. If you want to learn more, please visit my website www.boombustreport.com. Here you find all the information about Dr. Pollard's Boom and Bust Report for the investor who really wants to know. I look forward to your visit.